What's up, everybody? I'm going to get this live shared because this is important. We want to make sure that we are having this conversation and being as thorough and open as possible. So, give us just a few seconds to get people in here. We want to come on in the room, okay? Come on in here. So, let's give a few moments. If you're in, go ahead and share. We've got Dr. Chaiqua Harris tonight talking about mental health resources. So we want to make sure that we can get as many people as possible having this conversation and really just being comfortable about it. Okay. So let's get it. All right. Let me bring Miss Dr. Harris in here. Hey, Quia, how are you? Now, Quia is a regular. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Dr. Chaiqua Harris is a counselor education professor and the creator of the Monthly Fashion app, which is now well over 500 downloads. Okay. Yeah.
523.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm so excited to have you. One, you are a regular panelist on A Tribe of Dope Black Women. So people have heard bits and pieces. Sometimes you lay back in the cut and do more observation or whatever, but a lot of times you give us the mental health aspect or the aspect that can help us with kind of healing or being on this journey. And the wonderful thing and the reason that we kind of brought it back to this place and what helped me in a lot of ways to kind of take this journey with the tribe is wanting to be more open and honest about mental health and therapy and not being embarrassed to talk about it and not being afraid to say this is a conversation that needs to take place in our community. So I'm so honored that you were comfortable coming on and being able to share, but you've done your journey with your following on Counseling Corner with Quia on IG, which you just recently connected to Facebook, right?
Yes. So more people could see it because I have more people on Facebook, but I'm not a Facebooker. So I've been trying to be a little better with it. But
yeah. Tell people a little bit about how you got to this place of saying, you know what, my journey is not just for me. My journey is also a ministry because I feel like what you're doing with trying to normalize therapy in this way, especially in our community, is definitely a ministry. So how did you get there?
Well, I will say, like I stated on the Counseling Corner today, that I started going to therapy for myself, which actually, while I was working at this university in Mississippi, they require master level students who are working on their degrees to be counselors to get at least 6 sessions, which I think is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because they feel that you must learn how the client experiences you as a therapist in order for you to be able to give them the key to unlock that
That
door.
makes sense. That makes sense.
And so while doing so, I just like, well, I'll try some therapy because I was working on my doctorate at that time. And anybody that has been there knows that it is a life changer. And
Or if anybody has been around somebody who's worked on their doctorate, you know how stressful it is. So I watched you and my sister kind of during the same time on this journey, and it didn't make me want to run and go get one. I'm gonna say that.
it did not.
But you persevered.
Yeah. And so I said, if I'm telling other people to go, I know that I need to go at this moment because it was at a point where I was feeling highly irritated, highly emotional, and the situations weren't warranted the actual emotions that I was experiencing. So I received counseling then, but that was just a door opening for me to receive therapy. But as I, of course, matriculated through my profession, I got to another point where I felt as if I need to go to therapy. And this time it started from me listening to different podcasts and saying, okay, I'll search for a therapist. Let me see if I can find me a black woman that, she might give me a little different swing to it
Yes, yes,
than the
yes, yes,
previous
yes.
experiences I've had. And so I found the amazing therapist that I refer to everybody. And
Yeah,
she's at the point to where she can't even take people. She's having to give them out to other people in her office.
yeah.
And so
That's a good feeling to where you're
yeah,
like, you know what, this person is so good. I need to tell everybody.
yeah. And so that's how I started. Like she assists me in being empowered in not only who I am, but in the fact that therapy is a great thing. And so
Yes, it is.
and so I for years someone continuously told me that I should turn that I used to send out scriptures as text messages every morning. And so I just got this idea that I should change it to okay, let me do an app. But by watching the great Anita Phillips, Dr. Anita Phillips on Instagram, she talks about I pray and I go to therapy because she talks about as therapy being a strategy, but prayer being the weapon. And so it just all kind of snowballed into it to where it's like, okay, Kuya, you have these platforms, you've been sitting on them. You need to be obedient and do what you are being pushed to do. And so one day I just decided to start talking on Instagram, and I think it was you that said you need your own page, not your private page. You need your own open
Yeah.
page so people can see this. So I developed the page and developed the app, and it's just I said this is what I must do.
And you know what? I know I've shared this with you in the past, like repeatedly. It would be days where we hadn't talked, like actually talked, but you'll send a scripture or you'll send something, and I'll text you, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was spot on. Like, how did you come up with that? That is so relevant in what I'm going through today, because you didn't just have the scripture, you would also have a little nugget at the end to be like, all right, here's a tool that if you're dealing with this right now, this is how you can kind of navigate. And I would be like, oh my God, Quia, like I needed that in that moment. And I'm so grateful. Tamika says hi. She's getting prepared for a big trial tomorrow, so she's not joining us tonight. But I think it's amazing that you took something that was truly just inherently in you. Like you were like, you know what? It's a gift in me that I'm supposed to share this thing. And you turned it around and said, let me not just give this to my close friends and family. Let me give this to the world. And when Counseling Corner with Quia was birthed, I was like, Quia, this is amazing. Like, I want to be able to share with everybody, because you were hitting nuggets that people feel it's taboo to talk about going to therapy. You even touched based on that today in your corner piece today, or nugget today. I call them little nuggets. Um, we're talking about how in the Black family, sometimes we'll almost down talk in a sense. Don't tell nobody that you're going to count. Don't tell nobody that you're getting help. Don't tell nobody that you're taking medicine. Don't tell nobody that you got anxiety. But I speak very openly and candidly about my journey, because I come from a place of watching what not talking about it did to my grandmother. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people talked around her about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a very present thing in her life. And I know that with the appropriate help and support, you can overcome, right? So I think this is such an important piece, to be able to really have conversations around not just therapy, but normalizing conversations around mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about May is honored or celebrated as Mental Health Awareness, Health and Wellness Month, right? Health and
Uh-huh.
Wellness, Health and Awareness. Am I saying that right, Leah?
Yeah, it's
Mental Health and Wellness Awareness
mental
Month.
health and wellness awareness month.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, being in the field that you're in with preparing counselor educators, right? You're
Mhm.
preparing people that are going to go and deal with children, going and working with schools, going and working sometimes in service centers, behavioral so specialist support, all that kind of stuff. what does it look like as you're trying to develop tools to help them? What does that work look like? How does that go? Like, what are those people that are getting, I want to call them like our frontline mental health workers. I know we do a mental health first aid training here. Is that a
I'm doing that right now.
Really?
Yeah,
I
well,
think that's really amazing.
I'm not. I am actually in the first aid thing. I was like, okay, this will be great. Let me refresh up, on some information. And actually, thank you for one of the tribe members. Nikitra sent it to me, and I decided to register for it. And so I actually completed a module yesterday, but we'll have a live presentation on May 26th. We'll have an instructor. But you were saying what? I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Just asking, like, when you're preparing counselor educators, you're preparing people who are going to go in and really deal with it from the ground level with children first, in a lot of senses. What does that look like? Like, how are they being prepared, and what does that work even look like? Because this is a big undertaking.
Very much so. And so universities are monitored and basically directed and monitored by accrediting bodies. And so we have specific courses that they have to take, as well as specific trainings that they have to have in order to be able to go out and work with those populations. And so, of course, counseling children is different from counseling adults. Mm-hmm. And so they have, like, school counselors have specific counseling courses that we have to take, because that's my area of concentration, actually, school counseling. But I do have like a bachelor's in psychology. And then I started out working on a master's in counseling psych and clinical psych. Then I changed over to school counseling. But I also teach across tracks, that's what we call it, where I teach school counseling and clinical mental health students. So I continuously have my hand in the knowledge of both areas. And so as far as the things that they have to be prepared for, they take courses from things such as human growth and development to counseling children to theories to psychopathology, which are looking at the mental illnesses and different interventions to use with persons who have mental illnesses, as well as they could possibly take grief counseling, spiritual counseling courses, trauma courses. There is a wealth. It's a lot.
Right. So it is a lot of information. I feel like when we were in school that it wasn't as big of not a field, but it wasn't as talked about as it is now. We're talking about 20 years ago with this progression of mental health awareness and things like that, where we really have to have more of a conversation in a sense about it. Because I think about the school-age children that I'm dealing with and that I work with, and how that social emotional component has been a large piece for it. But we always talked about it, but now it's kind of getting into the work of saying, okay, we don't need to just talk about it and say, oh, we're going to teach kindness and character. Mm-hmm. We got to really talk about what happens when we see the signs of children, demonstrating or really showing some of the same signs that they used to say they wouldn't diagnose in young children. You're seeing it a lot more than it used to appear. But I think that as we talk more about it, people need to be unafraid to acknowledge when you see those kind of behaviors or know what to do, right?
And that's why I was thinking while taking the mental health first aid course, of course, it's not a course to teach you to diagnose people or to give therapy to people. No, it's to normalize mental health awareness, as you stated, making people aware of what is occurring, what are the signs and symptoms, as well as who can they refer the person to actually get assistance. So I think it would be great for all teachers to take it. I know they're like, I don't want another training, but I think it would be great because they have the most contact with the children.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, like, it's not helpful for me as a district level administrator to take those courses because I'm not with kids all the time. I'm with adults for the most part. But when you see kids in crisis or in moments of crisis, like, you need to be able to act. So if I'm walking through a school, it's helpful for me to say, okay, something's going on. Mm-hmm. Let me see who I can direct this baby to. But I look at it and I'm like, that was so needed when we were growing up.
Oh, definitely.
That was a missing component. So I think that's really, really big, that this is becoming a more normalized thing to say, hey, it's nothing wrong with you. It's something different with you, but there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong. And I think it's just changing that language and changing
Yeah.
the way people interact with conversations around mental illness, which is why I speak often about my battles with anxiety and depression. You
Mhm.
know, my grandmother's battles with bipolarism and manic depression, because it didn't make her a bad person. I tell people to this day, if she was alive, the grandmother that I knew, I would trust with my life and with my children's life, because she was a phenomenal grandmother, woman, and everything.
Mhm.
But she had this battle that she was fighting that nobody around her seemed to understand.
Mhm.
So you look at that and you're like, you want to see this become more of a conversation so people are not out here
Right.
suffering in silence. I see a lot of the posts, we see those memes and stuff like that, queer, where it's like, you want people to talk about what they're going through, but then you turn around and say or talk about them, so now they don't feel comfortable coming to you. Like, you can't
Mhm.
have a person say that you're open or you want people to share or be honest or open about something, but if every corner you're bashing people who are going through things,
Right.
or you're saying you're not a good friend if you don't call every day. Like, if that depended on me equating my level of friendship, then I'm an awful friend,
Yeah,
right?
right. Mhm.
So I think it's really hard. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, I know you talked about being able to find a phenomenal therapist and then having tools where you use the podcast and things, and it kind of led you down this path of finding it. But one of the things that I love about the Mind Freely Fashion app is that you have tools and resources within the app. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. So I know a lot of times the first step in finding somebody is when people back away, like they get overwhelmed. And I want them to know that it's the same steps that you use to find a dentist, same steps you use to find a doctor, MD. Yeah. So it's the same steps. You would Google it, or you would go to your network, go to your HR or insurance people to find out who is in your network in order to be able to find a therapist. And true enough, you might not find the best one the first time, and that's okay. And so a lot of people say, well, I don't know what credentials to look for. Let me tell you this: someone with a PhD doesn't mean that they are an amazing therapist. It does
Yes.
not. Someone with a master's could be a better therapist than they are, you know? And so the thing is, what I mainly look for, if you are within the app and or you could go to Psychology Today or Therapy for Black Girls, and you look at the person's bio and you look for, okay, this person specializes in adult depression, anxiety, sexual assault, um, adverse childhood experience. Look for like what are the specific signs and symptoms that you have going on that you think may be related to some of those specialties that they have stated, and possibly go with that person.
Right.
Then and I just found out also that they have some insurance companies have been wavering like the deductible for therapy for a while now because of COVID-19. So you may say, I can't pay my deductible, but right now check with your insurance company and find out if they are wavering the deductible right now.
Now that's amazing, because I didn't know that. That was going to be my next question, is thinking about all of us have been in this thing for over a year now. And when you think about, for me, I didn't realize that my anxiety wasn't so much of being in the pandemic as much as it is of coming out of it, if that makes sense.
Going back
Like,
in, it's like, oh. Mhm.
right, going back to what was normal, and now realizing that some of the things that were normal before for me
Or
made me
abnormal.
uncomfortable then
And so,
and make me even more uncomfortable now. And so I shared a little bit of that on Tuesday about, returning to work in person, and just how my heart has been racing and doing all those things, and uncontrollable feelings and just nauseated and all these different things for weeks leading up to it. And although when I got there, we had a fire drill. Well, it
mhm.
was a real fire, but you got the blaring alarms, and it's like
Mhm.
those triggers send you off, right?
Oh,
And you're
yeah.
just like, just when I thought it was okay, it's not safe. It's not safe. I should be at home. And people will look at you, and I'm like, you see other people kind of silently going through the battle, while
Mm-hmm.
you're openly going through the battle. And
Right.
so I shared with everybody. I was like, I got through the first day. Okay. Second day wasn't so bad. And today was a little bit better. So I know every single day is going to be a step to closer, not really feeling like being back in that space, but feeling more comfortable with it and still knowing that I have to guide myself in a way that I'm protecting my energy,
Oh
like
yeah.
not overexerting. Because one of the things I did learn a little bit better throughout this was the way to balance um, work and life, meaning that when I felt myself getting agitated, overwhelmed, or something like that, I just get up and walk away. And when you're at a job, sometimes you feel like you can't do that, but you absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
You could walk away, you could take a moment. And so it's utilizing those same things that I was doing at home or remotely in person to where, you know what? If it means for a few minutes, I got to not take phone calls because I'm agitated or because the last one got me up in arms, then don't take phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And just learning how to be okay with those pieces. I think it's hard sometimes, Queer, for us as Black women to be able to show up fully. And we talked about this like in some of our beginning segments with the Tribal Dope Black Women, which is why this space was created, so we could be our authentic selves. Because I look at people and they'll be like, oh, so you came and you just casual, you ain't want to do nothing to your hair. I'm like, whoa, but I did do something to my hair. Um, what do you mean? The most empowering thing was Monday when I got there. My boss was like, I just want you to know, because I think she had overheard it coming. She's like, I just want you to know, I didn't hire you for what you wear, your shoes, your makeup, or your hair. So I hired you for your brain. That's the only thing I'm worried about making sure you bring to work every day is that, because that's what we want you here for. And that was the most comforting in a sense statement, because it's like we get into this whole piece where I need to be comfortable.
Right.
When I'm sitting at that desk or doing the work I'm doing, I don't want to be uncomfortable because I can't do what I need to do in my best place because my mind is now thinking about something else, like how I'm gonna get home and take this bra off, or how I'm gonna get home and these pants don't feel good, or something's making me itch, or something like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we get so caught up in all these other things that the little things that could help us navigate a little bit better, we often miss a little bit. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to take just a quick second and talk about what are some of the mental health stigmas that kind of get, I don't want to say swept under the rug. Like, we know that therapy is a big one. Black people don't go to therapy. Black people go to church and Black people pray. That's one of the misnomers
And
that
not
we
a
have.
lot of them don't even do that, but go ahead.
But that's a stigma, right? That would be a stigma, is that, oh no, you don't need to go to no therapist. Girl, you need to call your pastor and you need to pray. And I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not it. Like you said, therapy is a strategy. Prayer is the
Yeah.
weapon.
Mm-hmm. That's what Dr. Anita Phillips says, and I have a T-shirt that's
I think that's
so.
amazing. But what are some of the other stigmas?
Yeah, of course, that people gonna air your dirty laundry. They're gonna think you're weak. Um, that I hate to use this word, but that you're crazy. That you need to be put away. Like if you actually say that you are going, that you have a mental illness, that you're going to get put away, and like how people used to, just because something is seen across generations and throughout the culture doesn't mean it's not dysfunctional. Like how
Right.
people always say you have the uncle, the crazy uncle in the back room. That's what
Mhm.
people automatically think that's going to happen to them. They're going to be the one that's ostracized, isolated from everyone, and just kept like an animal, basically.
Right.
Um, so that you're weak, like you stated, you don't go to counseling.
Mhm.
Um, what else did I say? We don't go to counseling. That you'll be ostracized,
Mhm.
isolated from everyone. And actually mental health is the emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental, it mental health is something that encompasses a lot of things that we should be discussing anyway. Mental illness is the one that people stigmatize and try to push away, but they lump it all together thinking it's one thing.
Exactly.
And
I think a lot of people don't know that there's a difference, that we all have mental health and wellness. Like that is just like your dental hygiene and your body wellness. Like it's the same thing.
right, but someone may have a cavity, or someone may have an extra finger, whatever have you. They're like, yes, that's. And I would say this, that July is Minority Mental Health Awareness. So that's what when we really need
I
to
didn't realize that.
bringing. Maybe you could bring on a minority therapist or something.
I would love to have a panel. We got a dope one that's a part of the tribe now, Alyssa Noel, who's with Right Family Values. She's a dope therapist here in South Florida. So absolutely. Deshandra says, hey, this is a great discussion. Much needed mental health, loving the natural hair.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We're both rocking.
Listen. Listen, I think that's important. We're going to bring Blair in. She's got her camera going, so we're going to bring her into the stream as well. Hey, Blair, how are you?
She's trying to get it together. Oh, and I was going to say, there she is. Well, it's frozen. I think, is it frozen? Or that's me?
It's frozen.
Okay.
It's frozen. Oh, there she is. Hey, Blair.
I think
at least it's frozen cute.
Yeah, it's like
she's
but yeah, so when that goes back to the stigmas that you don't have enough Jesus. After I thought about it, you don't have enough Jesus if you have to go to therapy. What have you been doing wrong if you have like a mental illness? Like people think that it's like a curse on you or something.
Or you have demons. I've heard that. I've heard that from ministers. And I'm like, or that's a spiritual stronghold. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's literally, now what it is a chemical imbalance for some.
Yes, definitely.
Where your body is producing different things that have different triggers. So when I hear people say that, I just realize, not to be mean, it's out of sheer ignorance. They don't know any better. They don't know that that's not what that is, because I know some absolutely phenomenal people who still have battles and struggles. I don't think I'm a bad person. And I have some major battles. When I was trying to explain to my husband, I was like, when I have an anxiety attack, like I don't go up and come down right fast. Like once it takes off on that roller coaster, sometimes it works its way up. But once it get up there, you on a loop-de-loop till you get off. And it's like the best thing I can do is, try to control my breathing, try to, focus on something positive, try to, bring it back to center, try to ground myself, because it can take you on a trip that you really don't want, right? I don't think anybody wants to be in that mental space. And so for me, it's very deflating when you want to share your journey, but you don't feel that the space has been created for. So that's why I'm so grateful for you, really having these conversations and normalizing. I think we got Blair back for real this time. She's back. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. Y'all talking some good stuff. I'm just listening in.
How is your mental health right
now? In control.
In control.
Okay.
That's powerful. That's good.
You have balance.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it comes from my certifications in like resiliency and the different things that as an instructor we have to instill in our troops, because we have a lot of mental health issues. Every year we have hundreds and hundreds of suicides in the military, and it's as a result of mental health issues in every facet. So we had to learn to kind of dive into that field. And most of being in the military and the things you go through, the deployments, the things you experience while you're on a deployment, the isolation, the divorce, relationships, all that kind of stuff plays into it. So I had to learn real fast how to assist with people with mental health issues, because I'm more so in the forefront. but also still be in control of mine and recognize when I'm being affected, because being overseas in a deployed location for so long, sometimes you don't know you have an issue. It's just like your behavior and you not want to be around people anymore, you lashing out or want to be by yourself, like different things. So I hear you talking about Black people not wanting to go to counseling, because when I came back, I didn't feel that anything was wrong with me. Everybody else was noticing things, but I didn't feel that I had any issues, because I feel like I'm this strong individual and I got it. You know what I mean? I got it together. I can take care of whatever, but it's serious, and I see it all the time, like more often than not. I see mental health issues in people every single day. So,
and I think just because you're strong and you can carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt or doesn't affect you. And I think that resiliency, especially in what you're doing, is really, really important. But for people who are not in a field where that's what they have to do, it's important for them to take down that cloak and say, it's okay if you get help. It's okay if you seek additional support, because carrying that weight can be too much. It really can. It may not weigh on you in this moment, but that wear and tear is just like erosion. You pour water on something long enough, even rocks, it will weather away, right?
So I think it's change the definition of strength.
You said what?
I'm sorry. I said I think we have to change the definition of strength.
Yes. Because strength can be used in a lot of ways, and we talk about this a lot, because that whole strong Black woman mindset, that idea that you have to endure pain in order to be strong, or you have to endure mistreatment or devaluing in order to be viewed as strong, it's not healthy. Like, that's not good. So we have to change the narrative around strength too, as it relates to us. It's very important for us to be having conversations around how do we build a community where people feel comfortable saying, you know what, this is something I'm not okay with, so I'm not gonna invest that time. Queer, you said it, and I've been using it ever since. You were like, you know what, friend, I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. And when I shared it, there was like somebody was like, "With your computer not working?" I was like, "No, the mental bandwidth. I don't have the mental bandwidth to do that right now." And that was the most empowering statement I could have gotten, because I was like, I don't have the bandwidth, meaning like, and it's serious, because when we think about our brains are like a Wi-Fi router. It's trying to send and receive all day, send and receive. And after the day goes on and you feel like you've either not been heard, or you've been misinterpreted, or you've been microaggressed against all day, at some point you got to say, you know what, enough. Even if it's supposed to be something fun, I don't even have the bandwidth for that, because I need to go into my special place and take rest for me, or take refuge for me, or meditate for me. And I used to feel like, because of the examples that I had, that if you weren't able to endure those hard things, then you weren't a good mom, you weren't a good wife, you weren't a good employee, and that's not right at all.
No.
Like,
that's what you did, was learn how to set healthy boundaries. Like, by me stating that was a boundary that I had to place to protect me.
Yep.
And so within that vulnerability of being able to state that's showing strength. And so
yes. Deshandra's on YouTube. She said, people think someone did something wrong if they have mental health issues, which makes it very difficult for people to discuss their issues.
Right.
And she had to learn that although she's strong, it's okay to say, I'm not okay, and then seek help to get things back in alignment. So she said she does a mental detox at times. Deshandra, I'm gonna need you to share with me that mental detox, because I'm sure that's probably going to be helpful for all of us. But it's okay to not be okay. And I think the hard part is we've seen our mothers and grandmothers and people around us kind of pressing through the not okay. And, oh, they made it and it was all right. And it's like, yeah, but it
if
wasn't.
I don't have to do that, I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Listen, if I don't want to, or if I don't have to, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to spend my life suppressing all
Right.
of the things that hurt me or bother me. And that was a point of growth that we had to get to, even in my marriage, to talk to my husband and say, I don't like that. That hurt me. That bothers me, because, or the way that this conversation is going bothers me. And I would have to tell him why, because at first he's like, what, you gotta, I'm like, I don't have to do anything.
Mm-mm.
If the way that this is going is doing something to me mentally or making me feel away, I don't have to engage. And I have the right to shut down and not say anything else if that takes me into a place that triggers me. I said, now what helped me in therapy is understanding why I was triggered.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep.
was the power of that, like knowing the why behind why this sent me over the edge. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a matter of, there's so many things. I know that this is a topic that we could talk about for weeks, because it's something that people often miss. People may be dealing with grief. They may be dealing with loss. They
That's
may be
major.
dealing with
That's major.
anything.
Mhm.
We have all endured so much over this past year, but we can't take for granted that some of us are still enduring. Like, we're still on the road to trying to overcome what we've experienced. And that's hard.
Mhm.
So when people try to push you into being okay when you're not even ready to be in that place, it's where it becomes like a real problem. So we talked about just being able to understand those stigmas, but when we talk about the power of therapy, what is the most powerful thing you got from your experience with therapy, Quia?
Mm. Well, you know, the linking, like actually being healthy mentally, actually strengthened me in my spirituality.
Yeah.
And so, like being able to connect those two was amazing for me because my therapist helped me to learn that it's okay for me to be comfortable, although other people may be in discomfort because of me being comfortable in who I am.
Yes.
And so that
Absolutely.
linked me to I am the daughter of a king. I am worthy. I am worth more than rubies. And hey, so I started to like link those, like in order for you to be able to walk in who he's called you to be, you must be able to know that person and honor her. And so
Absolutely.
it helped me do learn a lot of that, and then that pushed me further in my spiritual maturity.
Absolutely. Blair, with you being our in-house fitness guru and doing all that you do with Eight Figures Your Brand and with the Blair Fitness the brand, talk a little bit about the importance of being mentally fit, like, and prepared to take that journey so that people can then be physically fit. How do they connect?
They go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So even before, like, I do the challenges that you guys are aware of, even before I allow you to even be a part of the challenge, I have to talk to you and see where you are mentally. I've turned down several people because they're just not there and they don't realize it. They think they want something and it's the physical. You see the models on TV, that's what you want, but you're not even mentally there. You don't even love yourself. You got so much going on. You don't know if you're coming or going. So you're not going to be successful in that, because the first thing in being like physically ready is being mentally ready, because it's nothing but it's a mind thing. It goes
Yeah.
hand in hand. So it's like if you're trying to step in there trying to just do it because of a physical look and you're all messed up, like, you're not going to be successful. So
That was one of the major things you and I talked about, was because you was like, Michelle, you could do this, like, you know how to do this. I was like, but my mind wasn't there. Like, I was in such a broken place, thinking I was broken, that I couldn't even bring myself to a place to say I can do this. And now that I do it every day, I'm like, now girl, you could have did this. You should have been on the other side of that. But that mental battle is so
Mhm.
it's the hardest battle you fight every day. That battle of the mind. Katura said something really amazing though. She shared men really don't know how beneficial therapy can be for them when they carry the whole world on their shoulders when they don't have to. And I think that's something that my husband speaks a little bit more about, you know, our journey together in therapy. But I encourage him all the time. I'm like, take your own journey too, because there's so much you can discover about yourself that you suppress that will benefit you in every relationship that you have. Like, we all have things that we have suppressed subconsciously, whether it's somebody telling us we look a certain way or we behave a certain way. Quinn, you and I connected a lot on the fact that growing up, people called us mean. And I had to look back and I was like, am I mean? I'm like, I'm not a mean person. I don't have a mean bone in my body. I can fight, but that's two different things. Like, those are two unrelated things. Like, will I fight? Absolutely. Do I walk around picking fights or being unkind to people? No. I also don't let people walk over me. So I think, and you talk about this too, Kui, about setting boundaries. People think they're walls. No, I just don't tolerate what I don't tolerate. And it's learning how to say, no, that doesn't make me happy. Or even with being in an uncomfortable situation, saying, if I'm still here in discomfort for now, it's because I'm not ready to move from it. But I'm in control of that aspect of it. And I think that's a hard piece to really understand, that people are not what you say they are. And so it's dangerous to go around, like, I'm very cautious with the words I speak over the girls, because I don't want them growing up owning things that aren't them.
Right.
Right.
Right. Going back to the men, I think they have to have an environment that normalizes it. We use normalizing a lot, but how can you normalize? They have to have an environment that has conversations about them opening up about their feelings, about therapy being something that is for all persons. And so I definitely make sure that I plant those seeds in the males and anyone that's in my life. But definitely my brother knows, if he needs to go, come see me. Let's talk about it. Like, who do I need to reach out to? What kind of therapist are you looking for? My little male cousins, I talk to them all the time about their feelings, and especially one of my little ones that's very close to me. He'll say, well, how did you know that? And I'll say, I just could see it and I sense it in you. So I get him talking about a little more about his feelings. I even talk about sexual abuse with him a lot. And people are like, well, sometimes he'll get embarrassed, like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you saying? I say, because there are people out there who will do this to you, and it will make you think it's okay, but I want you to know that that's not okay, and that I am someone that you can come and talk with about those kind of things.
Absolutely.
From sadness, of depression, anxiety, ADHD, like just talking about all those things so that he'll feel comfortable coming to me.
Yeah. And that's an important conversation to have, because a lot of times our kids are going through these emotions and they don't even know why or what's causing it, because they don't have the tools yet to say, this is what made me feel this way. And Couture just asked another great question, says that, are there any therapists that focus on teenagers? Like adolescent? Is that an adolescent therapist?
Well, they're children, because when you get trained for to see children, it's children and adolescents. They're combining them. So yeah, totally. There are therapists that focus in on children and adolescents, and any issues that they have going on. Like, you can read their bios, and majority of them will place that in there, like adolescents, or like the age range of persons that they will see.
I'm not sure if they have them, but I think it's important to have a therapist in grade school, because that's the most important time where children are very influential by their peers, and it could play on their mental. It can make them feel it can start at home, but it also starts around the people that you are with, because they can have you feeling like you're not pretty enough, or you're not strong enough, or your financial status is not good enough. And that plays on your mental and makes you always think that, hey, I'm not good enough unless I have this, or unless I look like this, or if my hair doesn't do this, you know. So it's a lot, and we don't know what always goes on with the children, because they don't share that with the parents, you know. And unfortunately, they have to kind of succumb to that internal hurt that we never ever get to know about until something dramatic happens later on in life that we try to understand. So Michelle, I know you have girls, and I know growing up I was a mean girl.
Oh
And
no.
we all were probably at some point. If you hung with girls,
No,
we
I was the bullied one. I wasn't a bully. I was bullied.
I
yeah.
got
So,
bullied in 5th grade, but then after that, I did turn to like,
but kids are mean to each other. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
sometimes I don't think they know better, or they don't know the impact of what they're doing and saying is
Or
probably pushing on them. They probably learn it at home. They're being
they
treated,
can't do
you know.
what they want to say to the people at home, so they bring it to school a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't realize it. So it's like, how do you have those conversations? Because you do have, suicide in young babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want to be around anybody. They're cutting their wrists, thinking they're not pretty or whatever. So how do you counter that, or what type of conversations do you have with your daughters? Because you have girls, and it's being, I guess, liked or one of the in crowd people is probably important to you when you were younger. Like now, we don't care. I don't care if I'm by myself. I could care less if I have zero friends or whatever. If they're not healthy for me. But growing up, you wanted to be accepted. You wanted to be the most liked, or whatever the case may be. And even in school, we had the most likely to succeed, and we had those little titles that were given out, not even
Yeah.
realizing, like, what is that really doing to the people or whatever. Homecoming queens and things like that. Is that playing on people's mental? If you don't get it,
Absolutely.
does that mean that you're not liked? Because it's a
Or
vote,
good.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are
As far,
there are therapists in elementary, middle, and high school.
yeah. Yeah. As far as with my girls, I have to first give the disclaimer that I am not a perfect parent. And some days I don't even feel like a good parent, but I'm a parent every day nonetheless. So what I can tell you, and you both know that in dealing with each of the girls, they've each had their own different things, from mental health and wellness checks that have to be done, to going and being fully evaluated, to physical issues and things that have been going on, to trauma that is incurred with them. So we dealt with the full battery of it over here. What I try to do with my girls, first and foremost, is let them know that I'm here, that they can talk to me about anything, but that beyond that, I will find them the help that they need, because I am not the professional that can help them with everything. And I understand that they may not feel comfortable telling me everything, especially if they think I'm going to react, or if they think it's going to cause a trigger in me. I do share a lot of um, real experiences, right? So things that I've gone through as a young person that traumatized me, in order to hopefully prevent it from happening to them, I share that with them. Now, I do understand that every child is different, and some children are from Missouri, and so they have to be shown or experience it firsthand. But I want them to know, because I felt like growing up, I didn't know enough about a lot of things. And so I tried things that I shouldn't have tried, because I didn't know. And I didn't have an example of this is what happens when you. So I try to give the girls, Dallas and I both try to give the girls examples. This is what happens when you, like, for real examples, because mommy went through this, daddy went through this, or this happened, or TT went through this, all these different things, so that they know we're not making it up. We're not just trying to keep you from having fun. We're literally trying to protect you. And so now, especially with Zara being the oldest, she's a teenager now. She'll come and she'll be like, you know what? Thank you for saying this, or thank you for keeping me out of that situation, because I realized you were trying to help me. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Already at 13? That's good. That's real good, because I ain't learned to like 21. It was a long time. But I think that's something that is very hard. A lot of parts of me wants to protect them, in the sense to where I want to put them in a bubble, but that ain't realistic at all. They've got to go out into the world at some point, and I want them to be prepared, and I want them to be informed. And a large part of that is getting them therapy on the front end. I don't want to have to save up my money now, because they spending years in therapy later. I'd rather them have it now, develop the tools so that as they're encountering different situations, as they're interacting with different things, they know how to handle, and they know that this is a tool. The same way you go to the doctor to get an annual exam, the same way you're going to the dentist to get your teeth clean and get your teeth checked, you need to be going to check on your mental health. You need to be aware of what's going on in your brain. What kind of thoughts are you having? What is your idle mind doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you coping when you get told no? How do you respond when your friends switch out on you, right? All those types of things. So it is a very hard task, but it's something that I try to be consistent with, making sure that they know that they've got a mom that is not going to try to give them all the answers, but I am going to give them as many tools as I possibly can to prepare them, because it's hard. I had a phenomenal mom growing up. She was loving. She displayed love to everyone. I think the biggest lesson she taught me was selflessness. But it was also the lesson that I took from her, that I didn't want to be so selfless that I had nothing for myself. So her greatest example was also her biggest lesson for me. I was like, I want to be giving, but not so giving that I don't have anything left to give me. Right? Because that's a boundary. Right, Quia?
Mm-hmm.
That's learning that you can't pour out of an empty cup. If you done gave everything away, you done. It doesn't get replenished like that. So those are the things that I want to make sure the girls understand, that you don't have to run yourself ragged trying to be a friend to everybody. Are you a friend to you first? Do you love you? Because it took me years to love me. It took me years of getting over people calling me fat and ugly. When I'm like, I look back at my pictures and I'm like, damn girl, you weren't ugly or fat. You were actually very small. It's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
And not worrying about what provoked the other person to say that, because that's a them issue. And so I'm learning to help them understand, okay, where are you in this space? How are you internalizing what these people say? Do you embody those characteristics? Because if you don't, let's unpack that a little bit to say, okay, yeah, it's hard being a kid and going through all these different things. But if you know that you got 96 people over here saying you are a good person, you're doing a good job, you're being a good example, you're a good leader, you've got good characteristics, you've got good character, but then you got 3 people over here saying you're not. Maybe it's just when you're with them. Look at your interactions with those people, and how do those people help drive the way you behave. But the one thing I realized, and this is going to sound so crazy, but the one thing that I realized recently was that just because the kids get older, you don't stop being a mom. Like, my mom is still my mom, and I'm fully grown, but I'm never going to stop teaching them, right? I'm never going to stop parenting them and trying to help them in this journey. And so that's a little overwhelming in and of itself. But at the same time, it helps because I feel like what's happening with each one is going to have like a trickle down effect, because each of them are dealing with their own thing, and it's influencing the way they interact with other people. I can be honest and say that they look at people with physical disabilities different now, because they see people who deal with it every day and have to navigate life through it. So they don't look at people who are disabled as odd or as abnormal. They look at them and say, you know what? They got this going on. They handling this really well. They're navigating through life in a phenomenal way. Even with people who are currently suffering from different mental illnesses or things of that nature. So it's I don't know, it's an ongoing journey, Blair. It's very hard. I can't imagine doing it with less tools, because I feel like we have way more access to tools than our parents did. So I couldn't imagine having to do this without the resources that we have. Therapy for Black girls, the podcast, and the website has been a tremendous piece. The Mindfully Fashion app, the curating tips and the mind mending moments, the counseling corner with quiz, those type of things. My mama didn't have access to that. My grandmother didn't have that. But I always think about, what if my grandma had Mindfully Fashion or therapy for Black girls? How could she have navigated in that kind of system, right? So it's a process just to be able to do that. and to be able to understand the power that we have in those different things.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other things and tips that you would leave people with, Quia, that are seeking to begin their own mental health journey? Because I think you have to be actively doing it. It's not just something that just happens.
Yeah. Even in therapy, we have to have a working alliance where the therapist, really the client is the person that's doing all the work. So you have to be willing to work and ready to work. But some tips you mean you like for them, possibly if they aren't sure if they're ready to go there yet, maybe just observe
For those who are just not ready to deep dive, like what are some little things they can do to help curate their mind?
I always say journaling, but that's because that's something I like to do. So, I mean, journaling may not work for you, but journaling, exercising, bibliotherapy, where you may read a book about someone who is experiencing what you have experienced, or a self-help book, as well as did I say music? You could use music. So you can use music as a way to express yourself. Like I love doing that with teenagers. If someone asks about an adolescent, get someone to tell, like one of the adolescents, to provide a song that describes them. And it will blow your mind. Like when you start listening, as I've had someone bring in one that was talking about how they're like basically isolated, like they're alone, and but it's a song, and so it's not as, they don't feel like it's as threatening because it's a song, but it's really telling you several things about them and their emotions that they have going on. Like bringing a song that really expresses your emotions that you may not be ready to express yet. Of course, you can meet with a support group of your friends that you trust and feel like you can confide in. If you aren't ready to go to talking with someone who is a professional as of yet, that's a thing that you could do. Some things that may not seem as threatening, you could text. There are things like crisis text line that you could text them if you're in a crisis, and they can provide you with confidential advice, support, or refer you to someone as needed. There are also, let me see, there's another one called the Trevor Project, and where you can text if you're feeling suicidal. But then of course, after the text gets started, they're probably going to call you if you're suicidal at that point, provide you with places that you can go for assistance. So there are several things. If you're not ready to just dive into seeing someone on a regular, but you may be in crisis, there are things that you can do to be able to receive assistance.
Absolutely. I know I subscribe to Black female therapists, their texts.
Oh yeah,
and they send some good ones. They send some really, really good ones. I'll be sure to share the number because I don't remember the first number because I've gotten so many messages. I don't remember what you have to send in order to get it back, but that's a really good one. There are a lot of therapists, like licensed practicing therapists on Instagram, who share amazing tips. You said, is it Dr. Anita Phillips?
Oh gosh, yes, I love her.
She's amazing. I've watched a couple of her Instagram lives, and she'll bring people on, and she's really, really good. I can't think of the name. What's the name of the young lady who started therapy for Black girls?
Dr. Joy Harden Bradford.
Yes, she's phenomenal as well.
She's based in Atlanta. She actually sees clients, but I think she's like booked up as well. But she provides a director for people to see if you want to get with other people. So yeah, her page. There are several people who aren't what may be considered famous or what have you, but have counseling little segment pages on social media. Yeah. And of course, people are like, well, what about their credentials? Like I previously stated, you don't have to have a PhD to be a great therapist. The person may have a master's in counseling. They may be a LPC, which you can be an LPC as a PhD and a master's level person if that's a licensed professional counselor. Or some people may be school counselors, which school counselors we may, while in the school setting, we may not go into intensive therapy. However, we are knowledgeable about what to look for as well as how to refer a person to a therapist.
Some of the best therapists are people that's been through the situations and can just give you real life situations. Just to add on, yeah, of course they're not like licensed and may not know the technical things to say, but you know, I've spoken with older people that are just wise and that's just been through stuff, you know, and can just kind of really guide you. And even us, we aunties now, so we probably pretty we we're going through life, and you know, we can actually look back at life and probably guide and help people as well, not especially those that are not ready to see an actual counselor, you know what I'm saying?
Because that's what I was about to say. Like, a lot of times people think that therapy is just advice and no, it's not. Like, we have I guess I would say a deeper or more insightful, intentional way of assisting the person in unlocking the insight that they have within themselves to get their desired outcome. And it's not so much of like being able to tell them good things about themselves or encourage them, which can be included, but it's also work in there where you have to dive deep and dig up that trauma and process through it, you know. So we as therapists are trained in specific techniques to help a person get to and get through the hurt at a level that's beyond like conversational.
Right.
So that's what I like to remind people, because a lot of people think, oh, I could be a therapist. Oh, could you? But
I surely couldn't.
it takes a lot of training, though.
I surely couldn't. And I think about having conversations with my mom, older women, like Blair was saying. And a lot of what my mom has told me is how she would do life different. You know, she's like, I applaud you for being bold and unapologetic in how you're living out your life, because there's a lot of things that I would have done differently. And I'm like, wow, like you hear that and you're like, you see we see our parents as almost being superhuman in a lot of ways. Like, oh, my mom did this and she was able to do this and she raised these kids and but they are human. They are people, right, and they go through things. And at one point they were the same age that we are now. They were teenagers, they were adolescents, they were children, and they've experienced all these different things. And I think sometimes we forget that life experience does count for something. And so hearing them share that is powerful. But I can be honest and tell you, Quia, and agree with you wholeheartedly. When my therapist started unpacking some things and helping me, I say her unpacking, but it really was me unpacking it. But it was her using those tools to get it out. It was the most like lethargic feeling, that release of something that you've been carrying for as long as you've been carrying it. And you're like, wow, like I knew something was bothering me, but I didn't quite know why, or I couldn't pinpoint it. And it's because I had suppressed it so deep. It was buried under so many other things, but it was coming up everywhere. It was manifesting everything. It was manifesting in how I'm rearing my children, because rearing them out of fear that something's going to happen to them. Right?
Even out of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. So we look at that, and I think it's so important for people to know that you don't have to live with that. You don't have to keep carrying this bag. You can literally take this bag that you've had on your back for years, sit it down, unpack it, and be done with it. It takes a while, but it can happen. Like, it's so possible, and it's so powerful when you do. And so if anybody leaves with, if you don't leave with anything else, I definitely want people to be able to leave with understanding the power of therapy, understanding the power of, starting your journey, because we all, as Quia stated earlier, have a mental health journey, because we all have mental health that should be monitored and taken care of. But that's something that's really important. Blair, I applaud you for the work that you do in the military, because I couldn't imagine. I'm an empath, so I couldn't imagine processing the amount of emotional trauma and feelings that you have to process, because that's a lot. And I'm already a crier. Y'all know that. I cry about everything. I cry about every movie that we watch. I cry watching HGTV. I'm very emotional. Things hit me in a very tender place. If I complete a workout, I'm crying because I'm like, I made it. it's a lot, but I think it's important to know that there are some people that were built for this. And I think our therapists and people who are on the front line were built for this and have a special calling on them to be able to help us navigate through this. So I know that counselors and therapists, they get therapy too, right, Quia?
Oh, yeah. And I got one more thing I just thought about. If you are a college student and you don't have the funds, you can go to your counseling center that's on campus for free. And if you are someone in the same city, town of a college, you could possibly go to there for counseling, but they may put you on a sliding scale of your income, depending on your income.
So there's a lot of ways. Quia's given a lot of resources and ways that you can go and get support, that you can really hone in on starting this journey to mental health and wellness. We talked about this because May is Mental Health and Wellness Awareness Month. July is Minority Mental Health and Wellness Awareness Month. So we're going to double this back in July and really bring on a panel of experts to talk about this and how it affects minorities specifically. But I'm so grateful for you all. Y'all got any closing thoughts, anything y'all want to say or share? Blair, you got anything going on or anything new happening? Blair, I love that shirt, Queen. I need that on my way to therapy. Be right back.
Yes.
I love that. Where'd you get this shirt?
It's a company, a girl. All of her shirts have a message for those who do not have a voice to vocalize it. So it's amazing. It's called Message in a Bottle on Instagram.
Yes, I love that company. I haven't seen that shirt on it because I got my it's the protecting my peace for me shirt. Okay. It's my favorite shirt. I want to wear it every day, so I think I'm just gonna buy some more. But that's important. Blair, what you got going on with the Blair Fitness and 8-Figure brand? What's happening with that?
There's a lot going on. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it another day. We're talking about mental health today.
Well, we know the mental and the physical go together. So we thank you for what you do with getting people physically fit and bringing in the team to make sure that they're fully equipped with everything. It's always a pleasure to have you all. This is my for real tribe, y'all. When you see me with my girls on Wednesday night, these are my people. These are the folks that help me walk in who I am, honestly, because for years they've empowered me to be who I am and love me as I am. And it's a blessing to have people who create the space. Because Queen, you were talking about a little while ago that people need to feel like they're comfortable or they're in a space where they can be themselves and share this journey. You ladies do that for me. So I'm so grateful for y'all for being that to me and for me. Anything else?
Nope, just go to therapy, guys.
That's it. Queen said it. Go to therapy and download the Mindfully Fashion app if you need help finding a therapist, because she's got tools within her app to help you locate therapists from Psychology Today and Therapy for Black Girls. Therapy for Black Girls is not limited to just Black women. I gotta know that. It's not. That's just the title, and it lets us know that we have a space and a voice. So I'm grateful for that. It has been such an honor. Shakita says, "Hey, aunties, loving this conversation, and thanks for the confirmation. We'll be making the call in the morning." Awesome. Yay! Also, I talked with somebody right before I got started that Quia gave a referral to, who started and had their first conversation with a therapist today. So thank you, Quia, for being such a phenomenal advocate and normalizing these conversations around therapy and mental health. You are doing exactly what you were called to do, and I'm happy about that. Thank y'all so much. Listen, y'all, if you have not subscribed, go subscribe to the channel. Go to YouTube, hit I Am Michelle Renee, subscribe, get the Mindfully Fashion app. Go follow these ladies on Instagram at The Blair Fitness and at 8-Figure, at Counseling Corner with Queer, and at I Am Michelle Renee. And whatever you do, no matter what you got going on, by all means, protect your energy and protect your peace. Y'all have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.